Welcome back. Chapter 36, Ruth. I step outside into a world that has no right to be so beautiful. The early morning sun lays down a golden filter as a gentle breeze rustles the air. The gardens surrounding sunrise are blooming, with cherry-colored and creamy white azaleas edging the front porch and clusters of rich purple and warm yellow petunias filling the beds. I can't drink in my surroundings as I might on any other morning. A new Facebook message just came in for me. I walk quickly to the Bonneville, scanning my surroundings with every step and climb into the driver's seat. Only after I've locked the doors do I take off my glasses with the clear lenses and look down at my phone and read the reply sent by James. 9 a.m. it is. I can't wait to see you. But let's talk first. He then lists a phone number for me to call. My mouth goes dry. After so many years, I'm finally hearing from James. Are we finally getting ready to hear James' perspective? Crossing fingers. I look up to see Catherine exiting Sunrise. I turn the key to start the car and drive to meet her a few feet from the door. She slips into the passenger seat and clicks her seatbelt into place without a word. Then she folds her arms and stares straight ahead. Her edgy silence increases my agitation, but I can't do anything about that now. I need to focus on retrieving the Cadillac, making sure Catherine is safely out of range, and calling James. James wants to verify it's really me before he heads to our meeting spot. It will be easy to establish my identity, and hopefully it won't be difficult to convince him I've been longing for him all these years. Now, Ruth, stop lying. Because you running from him. Okay, she's still lying. I turn out of the parking lot onto a nearly empty 4-lane road. We're ahead of the rush hour traffic, which means we'll make good time to Pizza Piazza. Inside the car is warm and stuffy, and our temperamental air conditioner isn't helping. I lower my window a few inches and settle in for the drive. I'm so focused on preparing myself, I almost miss Catherine's questions. What are we going to do? I frown. We've already gone over this. You made yourself memorable at the restaurant last night when you talked to the manager, so you can't be seen around there again. They may think you had something to do with the fire. I have to be the one to retrieve the Cadillac. Luckily, Catherine parked it in the middle of the lot, far enough away from Pizza Piazza that it might not have drawn any notice. Okay, that answers my question. I'll drive it back to Sunrise and meet you there, I remind her. After that, Catherine bites off the words, am I supposed to stay in hiding now too? Just until this afternoon, I promise. Tomorrow at the latest. Then this is going to all be over. You can go back to your regular life, Catherine. She gives me a half laugh. My regular life, right. She's silent for a long moment, and my thoughts return to the phone call I'm going to have with James. He remembers me as a passionate, somewhat naive girl. I need to find a way to access the past version of myself, even though no part of her lives inside me now. I brake at a stoplight and reach into my purse for my dark sunglasses. So, what's your big plan? The hostile tone of Catherine's question jars me. I'm still figuring it out, I tell her. The less Catherine knows, the better for her. Just trust me this one last time. There you go again. The light turns green and I press down on the gas. Catherine shakes her head sharply. Her voice overflows with emotion as she says, you've lied about everything. Now I'm supposed to trust you? I know Catherine needs to process this, but now isn't the time. I have to focus every bit of my mental energy on what lies ahead. So many things can go wrong today. I feel my old nimbleness anger rising up. Yes, Catherine, the only times I've ever lied to you have been to protect us. She puts her feet up on the dashboard, a habit I hate. I've told her before that if we're in even a minor accident, her legs could be seriously damaged by the airbag. Whatever you say, Ava. Ooh, okay, Catherine, you want to get beat up? I flinch at the sound of my real name, but I squash my desire to react. I keep driving, the speedometer steady at 45, both hands on the wheel looking straight ahead. An hour from now, I'll pull into a gas station or some other public place, and Catherine and I will switch spots in the Bonneville. She'll drop me off a few blocks away from the Cadillac and immediately drive back to the safety of the memory wing. An hour after that, James will be arrested, you think. Then I can try to repair some of the damage I've done to my daughter. I turn onto the highway and press down harder on the gas, the tires thrumming easily over the smooth pavement. The sun is a bit higher in the clear blue sky now. It's warming the left side of my face through the window. We're drawing closer to my hometown. I review my plans again in my mind. There are 2 calls I need to make, both from the burner tucked in my purse. The first will be to James. The second is the one I almost made years ago from my parents' kitchen to 911. Catherine moves her sneakers off the dashboard and sits up straighter. How did you end up with him? With James? You come from a normal family and you were this popular girl in high school. What went wrong? As hurt and angry as she is, her curiosity is winning out. And I know I have to finally start answering her questions or I may lose her forever. None of that is true. The media likes to paint certain pictures because it makes a better story. But my family wasn't normal. My mother was an alcoholic and she abused us. You and your brother? I nod. And my father, at least emotionally. She screamed at him a lot, but I never saw her hit him. I wasn't all that popular in high school either. I guess when I met James, I felt like he really saw me and cared about me. That's how they do. They think they... Catherine, digest this. Maybe he saw you, but you didn't see who he was. That part. She has no idea how right she is. James knew me far better than I knew him. Yeah, I exhale. Now that I look back on it, there were little hints, but I didn't know what he was capable of until that night with Coach. She reaches up to rub her temples. I have the beginning of a headache too. We could both use a cup of coffee right about now, but I can't afford to stop. I need Catherine to be as far away as possible by the time James ventures out to our meeting spot. We ride the rest of the way in silence, other than Catherine giving me the occasional direction from her Waze app. It's strange being back on these familiar roads, traveling into my past. Last night, I drove here in a blind frenzy after I checked my phone and saw the little blue dot representing Catherine speeding down the highway. I tore along the roads, weaving around trucks and cutting in and out of the far left lane, already intuition that it was James who lured my daughter to that precise spot. We're driving the same route this morning, but it feels like a very different journey. Take the next exit, Catherine instructs me, reading the map on the screen of her phone. I know the way now, I tell her. I weave through the streets, guided by memory. I drive past a big grassy park with a playground and sports fields. Timmy's Little League games were held here, and the first time he got a hit, my dad and I stood up on the bleachers and cheered as Timmy turned to look at us, a smile splitting his face before he dropped his bat and ran with everything he had for the first base. Another time, my dad made Timmy and me kites with spare scraps of wood from his job, and we brought them here to test them out. The details of that Saturday afternoon came back to me as if they've been preserved all these years. tucked away between layers of protective wrap like a glass ornament. Timmy's kite got stuck in a tall oak tree, so before he could start crying, I gave him mine. My father squeezed my shoulder in a silent thank you, and left his hand there for a moment. We ran up and down the fields, the red and white striped kite soaring above us, until we were breathless and sweating. Just as we flopped down on the soft grass, we heard the jingle of an ice cream truck. We looked at each other, then got up and sprinted after the truck, waving and yelling for it to stop until it pulled over to the curb. Timmy chose an ice cream shaped like a cartoon character with bubblegum balls for eyes. I got a chocolate eclair, and my dad picked a strawberry shortcake. When we'd eaten them down to their little wooden sticks, my father put an arm around each of us as we walked back to the car. That was the spring before I disappeared. I turned left again, putting the park in my rearview mirror. We're less than a half a mile to the pizza restaurant. I need to find a place to pull over, somewhere with enough cars and people so we won't attract attention, but not a location that's too busy. I chose the parking lot of a Rite Aid drugstore. I coast to a spot toward the middle of the lot and cut the engine of the Bonneville. My fingers ache when I take them off the wheel. I must have been clenching it more tightly than I realized. I pull out the key and give it to Catherine. She reaches into her purse and gets out the keys to the Cadillac. I already know the car is a walnut color, and Catherine described its location, so all that's left for me to do is walk there. I'm seized with the urge to hug Catherine, but I know she won't welcome it, so I merely say, "See you soon," as I open the door of the Bonneville. "Mom?" I look back. Catherine seems to be struggling to figure out what to say. She finally chooses, "Good luck." "I'll be right behind you, I promise." Okay. 10 minutes later, the Cadillac is almost within reach. All I have to do is cross the street, walk down a block, and enter the parking lot. I stand by the curb next to the traffic light, waiting for it to turn. Cars and vans and trucks whiz past me. I try not to think about the fact that any of them could contain someone who knew me as a teenager, or who saw me last night when I was sneaking into the employee entrance of Pizza Piazza, the one that leads directly to the kitchen. I didn't encounter anyone during the first few seconds it took me to set the fire, and I tied a dish towel around my lower face. I reminded myself, I feel completely exposed, even with my big sunglasses. This place brings me nothing but terrible luck. I can't help feeling like I'm tempting the darkest of fate by returning here. The light turns. I cross the street, noticing as I draw closer to the strip mall that ribbons of yellow police tape cordon off Pizza Piazza. That's what I was thinking. The fire department got there in time to save the building. From the outside, other than the broken windows, some workers are boarding up. You can't even tell there's anything wrong. I take a deep breath and look down at my burner phone. I've already tapped in the number James gave me. All I need to do is press enter, but my fingers refuse to move. That might be your intuition telling you don't do it. I briefly close my eyes and do what I've done for the past 24 years whenever terror or despair or grief overtake me. I visualize Catherine. I see her as a little girl reaching up to hold my hand as we walk to the bus stop. I see her as she is right now, her long hair blowing in the wind, streaming in through the open car window. I hold the images of her in my mind as I press the green button to connect the call. James answers midway through the first ring. "Ava?" His voice is lower and deeper than I remember. Hearing it sends a shockwave through me. "Hi, James." My voice sounds different too. It's higher and tighter than usual. Hopefully James will mistake the fear threading through it for excitement. I hear James exhale. "I had to be sure it was really you." I've reached the parking lot. The Cadillac is 20 yards away. I move towards it as I launch into the lines I've rehearsed in my mind. I've been waiting so long, James. Every single day I thought about you. Every night I fell asleep dreaming about you. That's too thick now, Ruth. My words are completely truthful, but not in the way James will interpret them. That night we were supposed to meet. I got held up at home, I continue. I'm on the verge of tears now, but I don't squash the emotion in my voice. It should work to my advantage. I'm so sorry. I still can't believe you were caught because I was late. What happened? I can't sound too rehearsed. My mom, she was awake when I went back to pack. She started yelling at me. You know how she used to get. I finally had to lock myself in my bedroom and climb out the window. I was coming to meet you when I saw the cop car at the restaurant, and I guess I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. I just kept driving. I'm so sorry. There's a long pause. My hand trembled when I await James' response. Then James says, I knew something like that happened. He believes me? This is actually going to work? I try to imagine where James is right now. He might be in a no-name motel, or maybe he's in a car already parked near the spot where we're supposed to meet. Where do you live now? James asks, like we're acquaintances getting caught up at a reunion. I give the answer I've crafted in the hopes of pleasing him. California, but the moment I heard you've been granted parole, I caught a plane to Maryland. If James asks for more details, I can provide them. I've created a complete backstory for myself that's fully fictional. I've rented the car and I just checked out of a Holiday Inn near Annapolis, I say. The city I've named is about an hour south of our meeting place in Townsend. I deliberately cited a location in the opposite direction that Catherine is traveling. I unlock the Cadillac and climb in and slam the door, hoping James recognized the sound for what it is. I'm getting in my car to come to you now. God, Ava, I can't believe I'm going to see you after all these years. This time nothing will keep us apart. I better go, James. I don't want to get pulled over for using a cell phone while I'm driving. I start the engine. The more details James can confirm that corroborate my story, the less likely he'll be able to question things he can't confirm. Of course. Just one more thing. James' voice is calm and warm, but ice runs through my veins. Who was that girl who contacted me on Facebook? I saw her in the restaurant. Did you send her to meet me? Of all the things I've told James, this is the one he must believe without question. I cannot waver. I must give the performance of my life. Oh, she's just someone I hired on TaskRabbit after I was trying to find you and I saw your profile on Facebook. I wasn't sure how secure Facebook is, so I had her get in touch with you. I paid her to go to the restaurant to give you a letter from me, but that stupid fire happened before she could deliver it. How did she recognize me? James asks. She didn't. I tell him she didn't know anything other than to look for a 43-year-old guy who was there alone and put the letter on his table. I kept it vague enough that it wouldn't alert anybody in case she got the wrong guy or if someone was setting me up. The story I've spun is a little convoluted, but if I were as obsessed with James as I'm pretending to be, it might be plausible that I'd be so desperate to reach him that I'd try every possible avenue, including social media, which is a great connector for long-lost friends and lovers. I wish I could see James' face to gauge how my story is landing, but it probably wouldn't matter even if I could, since James' eyes always lie. So you gotta know he don't believe your story. Okay, Ava, he says. I think he brought it. I don't. I love you. What? Nausea fills my throat as I speak the words. I love you too. I expect James to hang up, but he doesn't. Something compels me to stay on the line too. The hair on the back of my neck rises as the silence stretches on. Finally, James said, "See you." Then the line goes dead. That's the end of chapter 36. I don't believe James believed her because I don't believe her. And I honestly believe that James is mad at Ava. I believe that he know who Catherine is, because that was a question, a weird question to ask. Who was that girl? That's a clue of him knowing, and that he was giving her the opportunity to say who she was, because I think he intentionally got her pregnant at 16, and he knew what he was doing. I'm gonna have to see y'all in chapter 37. Bye.